Rain or shine, it's here to make you laugh. It's the Steamboat Comedy Podcast. It's the Steamboat Comedy Podcast. And now your host, Kyle Ruff.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to the Steamboat Comedy Podcast. We're doing a special episode today. We're going to be debuting our sister podcast, if you will, maybe Redheaded Stepchild podcast, with your friend, local comedian, Jared Morrill. This is his podcast called Morrill of the Story, which we will be debuting with our friend Pat Treuer. So check it out. Hope you like it. Subscribe to his podcast as well. And thanks for listening.
Hey guys, here we are with our first episode of The Morrill of the Story with your host, me, Jared Morrill. Today I do have a co-host here with me, with Kyle Ruff.
Hello.
And our first guest, Mr. Pat Treuer.
Hey, super happy to be on the inaugural show.
Yeah, man, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you're our first guest. This is awesome.
Me too. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, and just to give like a little rundown of the whole podcast is basically we're just going to talk about you for a second, see what you're all about, and then we'll have you tell your story, and then we'll figure out what can we get out of this story? What's the moral of the story?
Hence the name.
Yeah, exactly. Hence my last name. So, Pat Treuer, man, what's your story? What's life bring to you?
Oh, terrific. Well, I was born in Aurora, Colorado, and I grew up in Littleton. I was technically unincorporated Arapahoe County, outside of Denver, and born and raised there. Colorado kid all the way. Still am. Always will be. Love Colorado. And I am a comedian. I went to the University of Colorado, Boulder, and then I went into the working world. I started doing comedy early. When I was 23 was the first time I got on stage at Comedy Works. Had a couple great shows, and then I tanked. My third show my first two, I thought I was going to be the greatest comedian of all time.
Naturally.
And then the third one, I gave up and basically went on a 12-year hiatus. And in those 12 years, I went to grad school, got my master's in international business. I worked for 2 Fortune 100 companies as an international sales manager. And I studied Spanish and business growing up. And I really reached this point in my life where I was super unhappy. And I realized, I love making people laugh. It's the
best.
I've always been the funniest person in the room. And
See, that's the attitude you need for comedy right there.
It's rare that I've met someone, and this is extremely arront, but I'm also comfortable with who I am. It's rare that I've met someone where I'm like, that person is way funnier than I am. And whenever I do, I have reverent awe for that person. It's like I feel like I get all giddy. It's almost like starstruck. I could meet a bum, and they could have me in stitches, and I would get nervous to talk to them. And now I'm full-time comedy. I've dedicated my life to making as many people laugh as possible and just improving myself every day. And many mistakes along the way and trying to learn from all the mistakes I've made, but ultimately to create something of value for people that makes people's lives easier. And selfishly, it's the biggest high in the world for me when I make people laugh.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good feeling.
Great feeling.
I'm just curious, too. Do you think that that 12-year hiatus gave you a better chance of being a better comedian?
Absolutely. And the reason being is because it gave me a great understanding of the corporate world and people. So during those 12 years, I traveled extensively around the world, and I got to meet people of different cultures, backgrounds, varieties, everything that comes with international travel.
Yeah. Sure.
And I was exposed to so many experiences I'm so grateful for, and put in so many positions that I really didn't deserve, and opportunities to make decisions that, really affected the lives of other people. And having that good understanding of that and the working world has now helped me in comedy. One, because that's the grind for most people in life, at least in the United States. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's the 9 to 5. It's the paycheck. It's the health insurance.
Oh yeah.
It's all of that, and I have a really good understanding of it. As opposed to, I look back, if I hadn't had that 12-year hiatus as a comedian, I wouldn't have known shit about life if I had done that. Right? I would you see people you see comedians, and you think no way they would succeed in this other world.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I understand that world, because now with the business that I've started, providing corporate comedy shows, like I understand how to work with people, and just like the importance of communication, and which is so important. Like just having a general understanding of other people as a comedian is so great. Like the ability to empathize and sympathize as well makes you a funnier and more relatable person, right? It's about you get up there and the audience decides if they like you in the first 2 seconds.
Yeah, no joke.
And so you have to, and having an understanding of people and what's going on in their lives, and really has given me a great ability to connect with audiences.
Yeah.
Which I'm still developing. I have not figured it out by any means at all, but that part of that 12-year hiatus has been, I'm very grateful for all those experiences, and the story I'd like to tell today relates very much to that 12-year hiatus. I mean, it's actually about that, and it's a story that's still ongoing.
Well, hell yeah.
But that's the hiatus, and yeah, and it also put me in a great spot in life to be able to walk away from it, and you know, I'm in a very fortunate position, and very grateful for everything that's happened in my life to be able to pursue my dream, and not have to worry about paying the electricity right now.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a bad life.
So
that's actually kind of the perfect segue then. I mean, you just did it for us. If you want to, I mean, let's get into this story, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Do it.
I was an international sales manager. I had a big boy salary. I had the corporate card. I had all of it, and I got to travel all over the world. And it's like I was so fortunate. I got to travel to more places by age 32 than most people will ever get to travel in their entire life. Right? I've been to almost every continent except for Antarctica. So all continents except for Antarctica, and I became a fat, drunk slob as a result of that.
I know the feeling.
Everyone knows that when you travel around internationally,
Yeah.
fat, drunk slob.
Yeah, and a part of the success that I had in my corporate career was I have a likability factor. My ability to relate to people.
Oh, yeah.
And
It's called schmoozing in the corporate
yeah, I
world.
was a professional schmoozer. That's exactly right. That's all I was.
They gave you the company card. You bought all the drinks.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Steak dinners, right? I still remember my first trip when I was 26, and I got to go on a 6-week trip to South America.
Nice.
And as a 26-year-old, that was mind-blowing to me, and then I could just go out to a steak dinner and get hammered and eat steak and order whatever I want, and someone else is paying for it. I remember getting back home and calling my friends back, "You are not going to believe this, guys. Like, I can go eat whatever I want. I can get totally smashed, and the company pays for all of it." And and that became a bit of that became a detriment. That became detrimental to my health and well-being over time, because I got addicted to that lifestyle.
Sure.
And not only that, but just like for my physical fitness, but my mental health as well, because personally, then I would go out and spend my own money, on things like I was spending someone else's money, right?
Right.
Which is different.
You got in that mindset after a while.
Very unhealthy for your financial state.
Oh, yeah.
For your financial state of well-being. And so I did that, right? And I just was getting unhappier by the day. Terrible grammar. And I realized I was so unhappy, but I was like making people laugh. And I said, and I would look at comedians. I'd go to comedy shows. I said, I'm funnier than that person. I'm way funnier. I'm smarter. But I'm also sitting here, and they're the ones on stage.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm also much lazier than they are, and I am a huge wimp compared to them. Like, they have so much more courage than I do, because I'm here sitting them, judging them. They're the ones doing it.
Yeah.
They're the
Right.
ones who are being like, they're on stage. People are paying to see them. I'm paying to see this person, and I'm saying to myself, I'm better and I'm funnier and smarter than this person. But
Yeah.
here I
You
am
can
in-
be
But you're
funnier
not-
than that person, but you actually have to get off your ass and do it.
Exactly.
You know?
I'm
Yeah.
saying it in the dark, in the safety of the dark.
I'm better than you. Who said that?
And so I said, you know what, I need to change it up. And I had wanted to be on Saturday Night Live. That was my dream. I
Yeah.
had a lot of signs
Oh,
along
yeah.
the way of people saying, hey, you should be on Saturday Night Live. And I'm a big 6'2", chubby white guy. Constantly people say, you remind me of Will Ferrell, right? That's I get that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you're an animated guy.
Yeah.
in general.
So I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing anything about it. And I said, all right, I'm going to go to Chicago. I'm going to move to Chicago. I'm going to leave the beautiful state of Colorado. I'm going to go to Chicago, and I'm going to take classes at Second City, right? Because that's what everyone on Saturday Night Live does. And I'm going to go.
So that was why you went to Chicago as opposed to like L.A. or New York?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was the improv scene.
Yeah,
that really got
and
in.
just things in my life were telling me, hey, like, let's look at this. And I remember I was traveling a lot domestically, and so I would like have these thoughts about what do I want to do with my life. And magically, I'd look out the window of the plane, and we'd be flying over Chicago. And I remember there was a moment where I was on a United flight. I was sitting in the window seat, and the person in the aisle seat put down their tray. And United at the time, still do, has pictures of their top hubs. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so the tray, the picture on his tray was San Francisco. The guy in the middle seat then put down his tray, and it was Hawaii, Waikiki Beach. And then I go, if my tray is Chicago, something's going on. Chicago, right? I pulled out the tray, and I was like, all right, I got to do something about this. And then I watched
It's a sign from God.
Yeah.
It's a sign, right? It's the universe
I'm on a
is telling
mission.
me, hey, listen up, dude. Like, you've been so... I don't know, like, he put it, it's like on a tray.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like,
It's in
here
front
it
of
is.
you.
It's
Right,
delivered
literally
to you
served
on
to
a
you.
tray.
Yeah.
We can't do any, like, Pat, open your eyes, do something. Because in grad school, in my capstone course, we do a presentation where I created a character, and I did this act out. And the first thing someone said is, you're so funny, you should be on Saturday Night Live or something. And I remember thinking, like, wow, why did I go to grad school? What am I, like, this is a sign. And you know what I did about it? Nothing. I went back and
just went back to
and
school.
got a different job with more money and just
There you
like
go.
a
Right.
deeper sorrow, deeper unhappy, like just
Yeah.
further away from my dreams. So moved to Chicago. And I worked remotely, right? And which was like, to me, I was like, wow, this is it. And I had this vision, like delusions of grandeur of going into Second City and having them say, you know what? First class, this guy,
Yeah.
he's on. We're
Blowing
putting
him
him
all
on
the
main
way.
stage.
Yeah.
Lorne Michaels is going to come to a show.
The next
Just
day.
for-
yeah.
right.
Just to be the
Meanwhile,
star.
like if for anyone who has not taken an improv class, you start off with a game called Zip Zap Zop, where you stand in a circle and you say to each other zip, and the next person says zap, and then the next person says zop, and it's just, can you pay attention? And that's it, right? And Second City is a great organization. They've done a lot, but it's also, as one of my friends said, the Disneyland of comedy. Right, and so
I could see that.
a major
Interesting.
revenue generator for them is classes, right? And there's a whole program, and I remember I learned more about it, and I thought, well, I don't know about this. Like, it's not going to happen because I was 35, and I had a big boy job, and they're saying, yeah, really, if you want, you can be part of a traveling troupe. Like,
Yeah.
but first, really, you got to pay to do our like intensive program,
Right.
after the main program.
You pay
and
for
then
the
you can do
gold
a-
package.
right?
Then
Yeah,
you can get to-
exactly.
yeah. Mhm.
and then you can be part of a traveling troupe where you make like I'm going to say $50 a show, and you travel around in a van with a bunch of 21-year-olds. Which there's some hilarious 21-year-olds. I've always been the younger one in the working world, so I was like, that's not what I want.
Right.
And I went to IO Theater, which now just closed due to financial hardship caused by COVID.
Damn Corona.
And I didn't, and like I went through their program, and then at the end of the program, they have a evaluation committee to say who is a part of a regularly performing group. And I was one of two people in the whole class that I did not get selected. And my immediate attitude was, fuck these guys.
Yep.
And but it was also because I was in improv, it's all about the group.
Sure.
And I was very selfish, and I wanted to be all about me. I went to writing classes. The Second City had great writing classes. IO had a phenomenal writing program. My favorite teacher of all time, a guy by the name of Michael McCarthy, who recently passed. Best teacher I've ever had, taught me a lot about writing. And I just realized that stand-up comedy was it. That's really what I love.
Yeah.
I'm an only child. I want to be the center of attention. So I was saying this, that I still continue to have these delusions of grandeur, yet I continue to work with my job. I continue to be a part of I made the choice to be a part of an unhealthy relationship with a girl from here in Colorado who actually moved to Chicago. And it's essentially followed me, and then that
Yeah.
became this negative presence that I chose. I would accept full responsibility for continuing to allow this person in my life and affect me in a negative way. And all I would do is, I'd eat deep dish pizza and
Nothing wrong with
that. Delicious. Nothing wrong with it if it's once a month.
Yeah.
But when it's 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you're eating a whole pie, literally.
Yeah, when I've
Packing
had
out the
Chipotle
calories.
for lunch because it's my favorite,
Heck yeah.
and just getting smashed. Chicago, the bars are open basically 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I was going out and I'm working remotely. And I was getting trashed almost every night, just making horrible decisions, right? Like recently the conversation about COVID is like, oh, you get tested in like 2 weeks. I would get tested all the time for my promiscuous activities, right? And I would just like go into this deep depression about like, oh God, what am I doing with my life? And I was wasting an opportunity is what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so finally I decided, hey, I got to leave this job. This is not healthy for me. I'm not doing what I came here to do. I am pissing away an amazing opportunity that countless people would love to have, and I am just full on pissing it away in booze and bad decisions and in the pursuit of money. And so I put in my resignation, and that was in August of 2018, and I got a nice bonus, sales bonus right before I left. And I was like, cool, this will last me for a long time. I continued to allow that negative person in my life to influence me and just party. And so I just partied for like 3 months after I left my job, not taking any steps forward at all towards the dream again. And then I had a breaking point with that person. And which I'm actually, like you shift. I lately in life I've started to say like I need to accept responsibilities for everything that I've done, and
Big time.
I'll tell the story. And I'm very grateful to this person to this day for doing this because I needed this break. I needed to be broken.
Yeah.
The person we went to a bar. I was madly in love and lust. And we were going to be just friends, which never
works out that
Nope.
way.
never works
Never
unless
out that
there's
way.
like you got to have at least a year with no sex. The sexual attraction has to be gone to allow for. You can have friendships with people that you've dated, but not in toxic relationships. I think that's the different one.
Yeah. That's a different animal.
Yeah. And I went to a bar with some friends. It was Halloween, and she said, "Hey, where are you? I want to come." I said, "Yeah." And then she proceeded to ignore me and then go home with another dude, and I was crushed. I remember I was dressed as Buddy the Elf at the time, right? And it's like
really getting that Will Ferrell.
right, yeah. And so I remember I walked home and I was crying, and like everyone's driving by in taxis with the window, like, Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? Like, hey, Buddy! I was like,
And you're like,
crying.
it's blue.
Just like such a sad moment, right?
Yeah.
And so I realized I got to get my shit together. I have to I need to do this. And
Take the
so
responsibility.
I started with a board. We're in the podcast studio, and Kyle has this board of daily activities, and I wrote, these are things I need to do, the building blocks of success for my future. And I don't know exactly how they're going to play out in the future, but I know they're essential. Right?
It's a start. Yeah.
It's a start, and it was reading, writing, meditating, learning how to play the piano, working on my YouTube channel, Pat Chat, and also just working on my business, Treuer Laughs. And I just continued, I checked it off every day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really wasted a lot of time. I need to make up time. And so I did what I called the 5 for 5, which I had to wake up by 5 a.m. 5 days a week. And I was initially doing it for 5 months. I only did it for 5 weeks because I was going out doing open mics at night.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to bed
Getting
until
in
1 or
time.
2 in the morning, and then I was waking up at 5.
That's rough.
Oh, I would sleep all weekend. I
believe it.
Oh, I'd go to bed at 9 o'clock. I'd go to an open mic. I'd come home, go to bed at 9. I'd wake up at 1. And so what we're getting at here is, long story longer,
Do it up, man.
is that I started to find success. I started to find my voice. I started to do open mics, right? Because I was in Chicago for 2 years. I did 2 open mics. 2. It's embarrassing.
Wow.
And then I had the goal of 500 in a year.
Yes.
And I hit 481 in a year.
Yeah.
And
That's fucking insane.
and it helped, right? It was necessary, right? That's everyone says, what do I do? What do I need to do? You just do it.
You gotta
Just do it.
grind,
You have
man.
to do it.
Yeah.
Make yourself do it. Don't get too drunk or drunk. Like I definitely made that mistake. I still do from time to time. And so now, because of the result of this, now COVID has hit. And I've got my business of Treuer Laughs, which I started to create in-person shows at bars and venues and for corporate groups because I knew the corporate side of things from my days in the corporate world. And when COVID hit, I thought, first I was like, I'm not going to do any Zoom shows. I'm not going to do any of them at all.
Yeah.
It's anti-comedy. It's that. At the same time, I would complain to my girlfriend about reading about businesses who were refusing to adapt or were suffering as a result of not adapting over so many years.
Right.
And I realized that I was one of these people, that I was no different than the people I was complaining about for not adapting.
Right.
And so I decided to dedicate all my efforts to virtual comedy. Right? And so first off, it started with doing a play on comedians in comedians in cars getting coffee. I did comedians in quarantine having cocktails, and I started with talking with comedians in the local Chicago community, and then it was again my girlfriend's idea. Like I'm so blessed and grateful to have her in my life because she's really pointed me in so many wonderful directions that I've.
Shout out to Jordan.
Shout out to Jordan. She's amazing. I love her. She's the best. And again, am grateful to the previous person for breaking that, like for everything that happened.
For sucking.
It's like, well, I don't want this to be a shit on my exes, but like I'm grateful. I've a difference in my life these days is looking back at people in my life who were negative influences, and realizing like I need to suck up. Like I need to belly up. I need to stand up and accept responsibility for my own actions and not just blame other people. Like I'm not a prize. I am no peach, and anyone listening, I did some fucking terrible things, And
I believe if I remember your set from last year, I could quote you on saying you have an okay dick.
Oh yeah. And the older I get, the less okay it becomes.
It's extra medium, but it's going down to medium soon.
Medium plus at best.
At best, perhaps. I just hope any test it's enrolled in is pass fail. That's all. And even then, I get a little bit nervous. And so. And all previous people in my life who were negative are great in their own right, but and a lot of the things they did to me were results of the actions that I did and things that I said as well. So I want to make that clear. Now, comedians in quarantine having cocktails, Jordan said, why don't you reach out to other people? I said, yeah. And so I started reaching out. I went to a Dry Bar's site, and I just was looking at comedians on Dry Bar, and I picked one who just looked like a fun person to talk to.
Yeah.
A guy by the name of Dylan Mandelson. Reached out to him. He said, yeah, this is, he said, I'll do it. Talked to him. He's like, I haven't done anything related to comedy until this. I go, great. Perfect. We were talking, a comedian that he knows started watching. I know we do an Instagram Live. You can see who's watching.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, you should talk to that one. So I got the idea, all right, I'm going to reach out. So now, I would start to ask all these comedians, like, who's a comedian that you like that you think I should talk to? And then I would reach out to those comedians and say, hey, I was just talking to so-and-so. They said you would be great to talk to. This is what I'm doing. Okay, great. I was talking to all these veteran comedians who were not doing anything. And they would say, I haven't done anything related to comedy at all.
Yeah.
This is the first thing I've done. Great time. So I kind of started to expand the network of comedians that I would never meet in person.
Right.
And like ideas started to formulate in my mind of like, all right, what am I doing here? Like there's building blocks to something, and I'm realizing in life, like there's building blocks. You just have to build them. You have to be creative. You have to build it. You don't know where they're going to fit in your life, but it's long
worth
as
having.
It's worth having.
Yeah.
You got a backpack. You can fill it up with as many of these building blocks as possible. You don't know where they're going to fit, but they will eventually.
Yeah.
As long as they are something related to your overall pursuit,
the puzzle will come together.
It will come together, and oftentimes it's a picture that you had no idea existed. Right. And so, but the key to that all is building those pieces, right?
Yeah.
And so, anyways, as I was talking to all these comedians, I realized that they said, no, I haven't done anything related to comedy. And I go, well, like I noticed this transition to Zoom for all the corporate meetings and events. And I said, you know what, I'm going to focus just on Zoom. And there was an organization that I had been trying for a year and a half to put an in-person show on for. And they said, hey, you know what, if anything, we can talk about doing something in 2022, the year 2022.
Wow.
And I thought, okay. And then when COVID hit, they all of a sudden reached out to me and said, and asked me, hey, Pat, would you be willing to do like a fun happy hour Zoom show?
Yeah.
And I was a bit resistant at first. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do this. We did it. It went amazing. was like, yeah, I'm going to just focus on doing this right now.
Sure.
And so I shifted everything, my website, everything. I reached out to people I had been working with in person, and they said, yes, we love this. We're looking to break up the monotony of Zoom. And now it's crazy, the amount of phone calls I'm getting. It's like I can handle it. It's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
But because of all the pieces I built along the way are all becoming very useful to me.
Yeah.
And I got a call a couple days ago from my former boss. We're buddies, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're great. We're buddies.
You're saying your old corporate job.
From my old corporate job.
Okay.
And he was a vice president, doing great, and the company laid him off. And which is it's sad news. Is there's 20 million people right now in the world that are at least that we know in the United States that are unemployed.
Yeah.
And he asked me how you do. He's like, yeah, I just got laid off. And he just had a kid, and it was sad, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes,
shit luck.
how are you doing? And without even thinking, I go, I'm doing amazing.
So good, man.
So I'm doing amazing. He goes, what? He goes, wait. He goes, are you still doing that like comedy thing? And there was a bit of like he wasn't trying to be a dick, but it was, are you still doing that like comedy thing? I said,
we never thought it was going to happen.
Yeah. And I said, yeah. And it's unreal.
Yeah.
Like the amount of requests I'm getting for actual like paying gigs. Like I'm struggling to keep up. And I realized in that moment that if I had not left Colorado to go to Chicago and to choose this path, because one message from a lot of my friends, my mom, Jordan, is why would you leave this beautiful place to go to Chicago? Because when you grow up in Colorado and you go to a city where there's not outdoor activities for more than 2 months of the year because the weather's so terrible, it's a challenge. And it's filled with temptation.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you leave? I realized that I needed to do that to appreciate home, and that if I hadn't left home, I would most likely be in the same position that he was. I wouldn't be surprised if I had been if I married the wrong person and been laid off and had been even unhappier. And I am very confident in saying that if I had stayed on that path, if I had not left, if I had not made efforts to create the building blocks, that I would right now on this day be miserable. Like maybe not even here.
We wouldn't even be here doing this podcast.
Yeah.
And then what's the point of life if you're not doing the moral of the story with Jared Morrill?
Yeah, exactly.
What I'm saying is everything I've done has led up to this podcast. So I could be
That is the best thing you could say for this first episode.
And now you can just retire.
So it's we when we're talking about this, this is a story that's still being written in my life, but I got that phone call, and I was able to look back and say, holy shit, like this is amazing. Like this, and this is just the start. And I also realized just as when you encounter something hard in life and you want to give up, that's when you need to keep going.
Yeah.
But also when you have success, you also need to keep going.
Yeah, don't just don't take off the gas because you think you got it.
Absolutely.
There's still more highway.
There's still more. You still need gas in the tank.
Oh yeah.
You still need gas in the tank. And I'm just so happy for I'm so happy as a result of making the decisions, doing and having an overall vision. Even though it's I didn't anticipate doing Zoom shows, right? And now I have this opportunity to work wherever I want. Do comedy. I love being in the mountains.
Beautiful place.
I mean, we've been up here for a month, and we wake up at 5 every morning to go on a hike. We go on really long hikes on the weekend. I play piano. I read during the day, and then in the afternoons and evening, I work on Treuer Laughs and producing shows. And now my mind, I slept 2 hours, so this coffee's great. Thank you, because we had a show last night, and the whole time I'm thinking, how can I make this better?
Yeah.
How can I make this better? It's what, and I'm still happy, right? Because there's a huge debate of you have to find a level of satisfaction, otherwise it'll lead to depression.
Yes.
And a feeling of insufficiency. And no sleep. And so I'm still working on finding this piece, and now I have to find a balance in life of the things that are critical that I defined several years ago: reading, writing, meditating, exercising, also making time for the missus, for friends, for new friends, for any positive endeavors.
Yeah.
And it's now I'm at that point of, okay, don't let my passion become a hindrance.
Right.
But build something great, build something that gives other people opportunities. And another part that to jump the gun, my moral to myself is that a lot of my endeavors have started selfishly. And the turning point has been when I've realized it's a bigger picture. It's about other people. It's about creating opportunities for others. It's about making other people laugh. So with comedy, it's about giving comedians an opportunity to perform during this tough time, because I believe in the comedy has never been more important than it is right now.
Yeah.
Like in my lifetime, I'm 38. This is the most important time for comedy with the condition of the world right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's about a grievance I've had with comedy, with the comedy industry, and is the lack of pay for lower level comics, which is 95% of comedians.
Big time.
And there's
Tough to break in.
There's an enormous amount of work that goes in that nobody sees, and comedians, very talented people, are not rewarded for it, and as a result, many of them give up. And I want to change that, and I'm starting to compensate people well for their efforts. And not only that, but then a big part of our thing is I do shows for nonprofits, all free.
Yeah.
And so we're doing shows. Nonprofits are reaching out as opportunities like employee breaks or fundraisers. We're doing that. And it's just creating this fun space and like using comedy for good and for other people. And it all started selfishly. It was all my thought, but then it really picked up when I started thinking about other people.
Yeah.
And the bigger picture. And
Sure.
when I'm just a small piece in it. And
Right.
when I can push things in certain directions.
A catalyst.
A catalyst, yeah. But also like have the idea that there's a bigger picture. It's not just about me.
Right. Of course.
So that's been great. And that's like my ability to say that, yes, I had some negative people in my life, but it was also a result of my actions.
Sure. Yeah, if you invite negative people in, you can't be like,
Yeah.
how did all these negative people, put me in this place?
Yeah,
And-
seriously.
And instead
True.
of when something bad happens, instead of trying to blame someone else immediately, which was my instinct for the last 37 years, I'm starting to look at myself. What did I do? Even if
Yeah.
it's something where I say, I need you to give me a blue crayon, and someone brings me a red crayon, I'll say,
What did I do wrong?
what did I do wrong?
Why did
what
I
could
trust this
how-
idiot who's colorblind?
The internal dialogue is this person's a moron. They're done. And then I have to calm down. Also, finally start to learn how to handle my emotions.
Yeah,
That's a
that
big
goes
piece-
a long way.
I was gonna say that's just a big piece of life, I feel like.
Mindset is huge, especially with comedy, because and that's something you talk about, like the work that goes in for like lower level people is like learning to deal with rejection. Because like even like the best comedians, like have you ever heard like Dave Chappelle talk about his first time doing stand up, and he was like 14 and he just got booed, like
torn apart.
so hard. He said he got off the stage and he's like, I couldn't believe that people could be so mean. He's like, I was just trying to follow my like you really gotta handle getting shit on is such a huge part, and that builds your character and builds your confidence and things like that.
Well, I think it's a matter of taking that rejection and turning it into something positive.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, and I've said this to Kyle, but it's, if I ever bomb or whatever, it's like, okay, well, I sucked that time. How are we going to fix this? It's
Right.
not like,
Yes.
I'm done. Fuck this. I'm done. It's like, no. What are we going to do to make it better? How can I make the jokes funnier? How can I
Right.
be a better presence?
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and it translates through all elements of life of
Yeah.
like, what's the lesson learned?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'm finally able to, like, maybe it's because I am getting older and the testosterone's going down, right?
More of a
Less than
pushover now.
average dick part. Like, I'm actually like, part of me is like, okay, I'm great that I don't want to just like have a raging boner all the time and just like care about sex, because like I'm actually able to think of things, but
Yeah.
I'm able to like, emotion clouds your judgment.
Big
Very
time.
true.
It's fact.
All the time.
Of
It's-
course.
You can't see clearly. And so when I find myself getting worked up, I still work on calming down before making a decision. As where most of my life I would go emotion, boom, I got to do it. Many times it was a terrible idea. And I know I caused a lot of grief in other people's lives and difficulties in other people's lives as a result of not being able to handle my own emotions, and also not accepting responsibility for my own actions and holding myself accountable. And like going back to the crayon example, okay, maybe like I should have taken some time to get to understand the person's communication style, because ultimately that's going to make me a better communicator.
Sure.
And have more empathy and sympathy for people, like as we were as we mentioned in the start of the show.
Yeah. So if we can, I mean, that's
So what's the moral of the story?
Yeah, that's a lot of information. But I mean, if we could throw that into a sentence, what do you think we could really get out of this?
I wanna throw it back to you before I answer that. What did you guys get out of this?
I put it into one word, and that's adapt. I think that's the moral of that whole story is adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's because you can use that word for every part of your life. Not to mention just the comedy career, but like you were saying with transitioning from being in the corporate world, but then being stuck in the what do I want to say? Like the purgatory almost between you want to do comedy, but you're still in the corporate world.
Yeah.
But you adapted that far, but you kept adapting.
Yeah.
Until you got to this point now, and now we're on the Moral of the Story podcast.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's all worth it now.
It's all worth. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. No. Do you agree? I mean,
100%.
I think that's what I got out of it. Man.
And be true to yourself, I think, is a big part of that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But also, I would say another moral of this story is all experience is good experience.
Yes.
You know? Like, take the good, take the bad.
As long as you
learn
make
from
it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's your choice to make it.
You have to
Very
run
much so.
Yeah.
And I think the other one is to take a risk on yourself, believe in yourself.
Sure.
And there's so many times I still
Unless you
struggle
suck.
with it. I still struggle with
Yeah.
it. I get on stage and do terrible, and I'd be like, "What am I doing?" Last night, I was up all night. We had a show, very well compensated. I was able to pay the comedians a phenomenal rate,
Nice.
which made me happy. But at the end, I was like, I don't like how it turned out, and I was like really upset. And I go, everything I've worked on is just, what am I doing, right? And my emotions started to get a hold of me, and I started to do that spiral.
Started getting in the way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had to call my friend right before we started the show, and just say, hey, this is what's going on. I'm just kind of struggling right now.
Yeah.
And like, that's surrounding yourself with good people. Sometimes you have people in your life, you select good ones who are there and they know you well, and you can reach out to them. They're great resources and kind of help you stop the tailspin.
Yeah.
And, it's something there, but it's all about the continuous adaptation, taking risks, going for it, and learning. And like, after I calmed down, I was like, no, I did learn. Because he goes, well, how are you going to change things? I go, well, this is this. And he goes, you got it. That's it. Like, and so, adapt, take risks, believe in yourself, find positive people in your life, but more importantly, hold yourself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's perfect, man.
So
That's cool.
God, that was a hell of a story. you inspired me now.
Well, it kind of sounds like I'm on a soapbox here. I do want to provide a little bit of context to anybody still listening. The conversation started, we were at the brewery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, part of our quarantine we would take edibles and have a couple beverages, right? Which just put us in the sweet giggly spot.
Oh, yeah.
And you asked me to do the story, and you're like, yeah, just think of a story. And I remember I said something stupid like, it'll just come to me, I find like a natural thing, and those are the best stories. So dumb, right before I said, the sky is so cool right now. And to provide context on that, Kyle and Jared were talking to me, and I just got overwhelmed with the Colorado sky, which is still my favorite. It's the best. Every night I look at the sky like this. I miss this. The colors. It's so unique to Colorado.
Yeah.
And I said, stoned and a bit drunk, wow. What I meant to say is the sky is so cool. But what came out of my mouth sounded more like, this guy is so cool right now.
And I turned around, and there was just some guy standing
some
there.
random man
and I was like,
standing up.
what's so cool about this guy?
Wearing black jean shorts.
I mean, that guy's pretty cool. He's got a black top and black jeans.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I guess.
You go, what's so cool about this guy?
Oh, man.
So, I appreciate you guys having me on. You guys, I think it's terrific. I think you guys are doing some awesome things up here. You like I said on Kyle's podcast, terrific. The Steamboat Comedy Podcast. You guys have this amazing opportunity right now. Like, it is so amazing what you have and what you're building, and just keep going.
Thanks, man.
Taking chances. The news about the show is fantastic.
Ooh, we might have some breaking news.
Some great news.
Well, we have
coming up.
some preemptive breaking news is that there will be an outdoor comedy show
Yes.
in Steamboat somewhere in the next month.
Yeah, give or take.
And Pat Treuer might be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be there. Absolutely.
Hell yeah. So stay tuned for that. And
Yeah.
Jared.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone who's listening. And just to end this, you got any plugs? You got anything you want to get out there?
Sure. Just you can follow me on Instagram, Real Funny Pat, all one word, Real Funny Pat on Instagram. And you can also, if you have a corporate event or a nonprofit and you'd like to bring a virtual comedy show, the nonprofits, it's free, totally free. You can reach out at TreuerLaughs.com. That's TREUERLAUGHS.com. 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 And reach out, and we'd be happy. Nonprofit, we would love to have you, provide you with a free show for your employees, fundraiser, whatever it may be. If you're a corporate group or a private group, you want a birthday party, whatever you want, just let me know, and hopefully we can put something together for you. And just stay tuned, right? Just keep it going. Continue to support Jared. Make sure you follow him on the podcast here.
Oh, yeah.
Steamboat Comedy as well. And,
Yeah, definitely follow Steamboat Comedy.
Any shows here, you have the opportunity. If you haven't been to Steamboat, you got to come here. They're building something great. You guys got to come check it out.
Well, Thank you. Please hit up Pat, get a show going. Thank you for being on the podcast. Kyle, thank you for helping me out with this episode.
Thank you, sir.
We will have more on the way. Stay tuned. Keep listening to Steamboat Comedy. And we'll see you guys later.
See ya.
Thanks for having me, buddy!
Rain or shine, it's here to make you laugh. It's the Steamboat Comedy Podcast. It's the Steamboat Comedy Podcast.